Hello and welcome to the third heat of Series 1 of Slash Dupe, the mysterious movie pitching podcast with a twist. You've waited long enough. In today's episode, we'll be pitting the winning ideas from 6 of our previous episodes against each other in a pitching showdown to find out which one idea goes straight into the finals taking place at the end of the season. I'm Sean, and with me are Ryan and Dan, and together we'll be pitching the previous 6 Slash Dupe winners to our adjudicator today. Ryan, what happens to today's winner?
Today's winner will go into the pool with the previous 2 winners of the adjudicator heats, which will then be pitched into the grand final, which will be like this, but on a stage. No, maybe not on a stage, but it will be on a proverbial stage. And we will then decide which one gets turned into a trailer.
Yes, so Dan, our dear listeners have that in store for them. What happens? What does that mean at the end of the season that it gets turned into a trailer? How does
honestly,
that work?
They probably know more than I do at this point, but the winner will effectively be made into a full film trailer. When we say full film trailer, up to our expertise and knowledge and however many favours we can pull.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll try and create a Slash Duped trailer version.
So our adjudicator is a big part of that, and then when it comes to the final and we have 6 ideas that are whittled down, it will be the listeners, it will be you guys at home that will be the contributing factor to that. You will help us decide which film we turn into a trailer. So our adjudicator today that is helping us crown a winner is Tom Daniels. Tom, how you doing? Welcome.
Very well, thank you, Sean. Thank you, Dan and Ryan, for inviting me to this. I'm very excited to be here today. So,
yeah, so are we. And I've known you for some time, Tom. I have to say, first of all, before I do that, I like how you're the only one of us that anyone that's seen the pre-release promo that will see that Tom has actually got his films in the background. It may be actually the only person that's ever made the effort or has put their camera in a position to have a film link in there. Am I right in thinking that? I don't think anyone else has bothered to sort of make a film-like environment.
No, I think Tom's the first.
Yeah, Tom's the first. So we're honoured. And so Tom and I. So I've known you for some time. It's safe to say that I've known you since school. Life took us down different paths, and I know that whilst you've been big into your films, we've always talked about films, and we've always sort of bonded over that. You've moved into more of the financial route. So, but all the time we talk about films, and we talk about we have creative discussions, we make creative decisions. We talked about setting up a company together, which is something that's in the works. So, I think it's quite interesting to bring you on board as an adjudicator, to ask you if you think that your financial expertise, your financial director, how that plays into the creative world, and if that will inform your decisions today.
Yes, so I think very much so. So, as you said, I am a finance director in real life. I have finance going through my blood, so I think I have to link finance into my decision today. And
I bleed green.
Exactly. But so I think when I'll be making my decision, certainly on the first round, I will be looking for ideas. You know, there's been some really good films. Paranormal Activity, which was a great film, made I think on a really, really low budget and made huge amounts of money, which is great because
Blair Witch Project on that thought
exactly, and it just shows that potentially a good idea can be done quite cheaply. You can then make loads of money and make more and more films, which is what we're all here to do at the end of the day, or would love to do.
Mm-hmm.
To put that into perspective from the financials point, Cats was made for 95 million, and that was atrociously bad. Mm-hmm. And Paranormal Activity's budget was $15,000.
Yeah,
and did incredibly well.
And spawned, as you were saying,
cannot get me started on Cats. You can't.
But if
ever we need to do another special, it'll be an hour and a half of Dan Cruz on I Hate Cats.
Yeah. And I'll join in on that, but like actual, I'll join in on that for actual cats because I'm allergic. So I can be that. You be like why I hate cats, and you hate. We'll call it like cats versus cats, like Kramer versus Kramer. But there you go. Already coming up with new episodes.
So on that, we have a few horror ideas for you as well, Tom, because I know you're a big horror fan. You mentioned one already, and I know that you're a big zombie guy, and so am I. The first feature-length script I ever wrote, and by the way, when I say feature-length, it was about 300 pages because I hadn't learned how to
confirm.
Less is more and brevity is the soul of wit and all that. It was a zombie film, so I'm definitely big on horror as a genre as well, and it is a genre that is good at being low budget and earning back a good budget. Let's hope that it doesn't bias you today, because there are a few horror ideas. But I've always known you as a guy that you're inquisitive, you're curious, and you'll ask prudent questions. So we're definitely hoping you can help us as we pitch these ideas to you. So what we'll do is we will draw one of the previous films at random in turn. We'll have 2 minutes to give you the elevator pitch, Tom. We'll give it to you from memory. And we have some of the summary that I gave at the end of the episode in question. For anyone at home, an elevator pitch is a brief summary of an idea's story, and it usually contains the key plot beats. It will normally have the main character and a hook to draw someone in. So if that's not in my explanation, that's hopefully what we'll sort of expand on or expound on.
So I'd like a little bit of method here. So the first one, we literally had elevators. The second pitch, and second adjudicator heat, we had cornered by the canapes. So, Tom, set us the fictitious location as to, are we knocking on the door
where
of
do you do these
Mr. Daniels, and we're
Tom?
like coming in and asking you, or where are we giving you these pitches to help?
At a restaurant? What's your sort of vibe, Tom?
I think you'd have to set it in a bank, and they'd want to know what their return on investment might be.
That sounds genuinely too stressful for
very
me.
Boring.
I like it. So we've been sitting in the hot lobby, security guards staring us down because we're brown, and and we finally get
Tom doesn't work for a racist
opportunity.
Bank.
And we finally get the opportunity to step up to the table of Mr. Daniels and pitch him the film, and we need to ask the money for it. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm there. I
like it. I mean, an executive producer generally is concerned with the sort of accounting for a film, and they sometimes contribute to the film's budget. So I sort of like the idea of you. Some of them simply secure funds, and some of them are involved in the filmmaking process. So it's this perfect role for you, Tom. I envisage you as maybe taking on board this fictitious executive producer's role. It's fascinating as an industry, isn't it? The film industry. It's not like painting. You can't just paint and show someone. It's an industry. It has to make money. It has to fit in somewhere. So to have the two sides of things, I find fascinating. So I'm up for this. So out of the mire of these ideas as we pitch them, the cream will rise, and you will be left with 2 final ideas, Tom. And Dan, Ryan, and myself will collectively pull together, and we will jointly pitch these 2 ideas for you to then adjudicate on a final winner. And I remember you saying before we jumped on, if I'm correct in saying this, you'll look at the financial viability of the ideas initially, and then we're at the final 2. You will look for something that speaks to you. So I like that as executive producer through and through. I love it. So I'm ready if you are. I'm ready for us to spin on. So if you'd like to.
Okay, so if I remember correctly, we go alphabetically. So it's Dan first.
It's always
Dan first.
We like to drop you
Ryan.
in it, mate. We like to wake you up. That's what it is.
Then Ryan, then Sean. I have, as per usual, loaded each of the titles into the spinning wheel of doom, and I shall spin it now to figure out what we want. Is the noise it makes. Oh, coming straight out the gates hot with episode 14, CRISS-CROSS. So Dan, if you would like to read...
It's a tough one.
If you would like to read the synopsis to refresh yourself and the audience as to what the winning idea and who the winner was for CRISS-CROSS.
Oh, the reason Ryan wants us to read out who the winner was is because this was Ryan's winning pitch. It was Ryan. So CRISS-CROSS, Sean said about this, a film about the creator of the cross for Jesus, Taika Waititi writes, directs, and stars as Chris the Crossmaker, who, down on his luck and on hard times, takes up the very difficult challenge, the mantle of creating the very cross that Jesus himself will be crucified on. It's bold but respectful. It's in keeping with his style. I sort of love this documentary style way of doing a period piece in that part of the world, and visual representations of Jesus as a religious figure across the world varies quite a lot. And I think it would actually be really genuine homage to Christian ideals and the ideals of Jesus to represent him as so many of these different actors.
Okay, Dan, your pitching 2 minutes starts now.
Hi, Mr. Daniels. Nice to see you. Lovely office. So I've got this idea. What we're thinking off the back of Jojo Rabbit. Everyone's in that world. Do you know what I mean? So we've got a lot of backing for this already. A lot of people got ideas, and we're thinking the maker of Jesus's cross. Right, and it sounds out there, but I think that's right at this time. Do you know what I mean? It's slightly satirical, but also respectful of religion, which I think is where we are at this day and age anyway. And we've been speaking to the director and actually and the writer, and they had this idea that actually Jesus is never played by the same person twice as well, so that the Jesus is representative of multiculturalism as well. So we never really know what's going on there. It's a tongue-in-cheek story about the carpenter that makes his cross and how he feels that it's going to be his claim to fame, his big rise to fame. And he little does he know how big it's actually going to make him, until of course Jesus rises from the dead, and then it all gets blown up into utter proportions. We've got everyone on board really. We're pretty ready to do it. We reckon we can do a fairly low budget shoot, what with it being mostly desert, and we can probably crib some of the costumes from Life of Brian and stuff like that. So we're really there. We think we've got it right, the pitching right in terms of respectfulness versus audacity, and we're good to go. I think you'll like this, Mr. Daniels, if I'm honest. Potentially big return after Jojo Rabbit and a little bits there. I haven't got much more to say because I think it stands for itself, doesn't it? CRISS-CROSS.
Nice. Just within the time.
Came in under pitch. Of course it did. Timed it.
So do you have any feedback, Mr. Daniels, or would you like to hear the next pitch first?
I think I'd like to hear the other pitches first, and then we'll
go through
We've
questions.
got Ryan Scott in the
cool.
lobby. He's just...
So I will spin the wheel of doom. What have I got?
All right, Ryan, how you doing? He's in a good mood today. Didn't say much. That's always a good thing, right?
You've got a briefcase, Ryan. That's an unusual look for you. Are you going to leave that briefcase out here, or are you going to take it in with you?
I have...
I took my backpack in because, you know...
Did you have it on one shoulder or both shoulders, though?
Both shoulders. I've got a spine problem, so...
I have got episode 13, Standstill. So, this is what Sean said about Standstill. A highbrow thriller that you assume is maybe a sort of parody or maybe it's a documentary news film, but it slowly turns into a thriller, a blockbuster thriller, which has shades of Independence Day, moving through lots of different genres, showing you microcosms of the world or a country after it has been affected, with a sort of invasion of the body snatchers subtlety to it. But it has a second or even third twist where the people have been appeared to be standing still, and actually doing it intentionally because of whispers in their ears, is a nefarious, unknowable force. And my time starts now. Hey, Mr. Daniels, I'm gonna keep this one like quick and short here. You know, we've been in and out of this lobby a few times, so you know, I know you appreciate the sort of the quick going to it. So Standstill is this idea, right? It seems like people are just completely standing still. Like, I know that sounds like weird, like, oh, you know, just like it's a new viral craze, like planking was back in the day, or you know, whatever that one was at the football where you do a flying header or whatever. But what it actually is it's this very strange, creepy force where people are being whispered into their ears, being told horrible things, and they have to stand completely still. They can still breathe and blink and stuff like that, but they cannot move, because what's going on is this evil force that only they can hear and maybe potentially see. We might want to go down the Bird Box route and not actually have the monster and just have this as, is it a prank? And then more and more people around the world start standing still. What happens to these people if they've got like poop or whatever? You know, like, do people try and feed them? Can they even do that? And it goes through this story when we were pitching to us. It was somebody learns to actually use their eyes to like move like a the machine that, you know, that guy in the wheelchair has, where he can like talk through a robot or whatever, and he's technically not breaking the rules, and they are communicating that there's an evil, unknowable force and this paranormal entity, and how they're going to try and stop it. When it was originally pitched, we're not talking like zany Ghostbusters style paranormal, or even something, I would even say that, you know, that film about the Invisible Man with Kevin Bacon in it, you know, that sort of level of like creepiness. But yeah, so I think, you know, this is looking at how well things like Bird Box and A Quiet Place has done recently. Another strange supernatural thriller of people having evil things whispered into their ears. All right, I've got another meeting. I'll catch you later. Coffee Thursday? All right, cheers, mate. Yeah, see you later. Bye, bye, bye.
2 minutes is not a lot of time to pitch an idea, is it?
It's not. It's really not. And that's the idea of an elevator pitch, is like you get into an elevator with a studio exec and they go, oh, are you working on anything good? And you have, you know, less than 2 minutes to give them an idea where they go, come to my office later on and pitch that to me properly, or, you know, or yeah, something like that. So it sort of have to be just the broad strokes, but enough to get someone involved. And I am the worst at elevator pitches, which is why I enjoy this episode so much.
And
So,
sorry, just to say, the winner of that episode was Christine Hollinshead.
Mm-hmm. Well done, Christine.
All right, Sean, I'm going to spin your Wheel of Doom.
Please do.
Let us see what you get. Very interesting. Sean, you have episode 17, Moore's Law.
Oh, it's such a difficult one to explain. This is like the only one where if anyone's listened to the episode, we did like an exquisite corpse, which is one of those old timey, basically we called it that. It's one of those things where you draw the head, turn the page, somebody draws the arms, turn the page, somebody draws the body, then the legs. So we all sort of came in and iterated. So this is a completely off the wall idea. I'm just trying to get in before my 2 minutes starts.
No, well, you have to read your breakdown of it first before 2 minutes.
Yes, so for episode 17, Moore's Law, so the winners were everyone, was all of us. Lawrence Ampofo, Dr. Lawrence Ampofo was part of that episode, and Dan Ryan and myself. We all won that one. Or, you know, some might say we all lost it. Yeah, that's sort of how it works. Sean said, it begins with two robots on an island, and you think, what is this? What is this film with just robots on a tropical island? But you realise that they're actually taking this Lord of the Flies type microcosm of multiple different tribes of artificial intelligences that are all vying for their right to be given their free will, to have the stabilisers taken off. And these environments are all monitored to see their progress and cast their sentences. Then the entire second half of this TV show or film is the aftermath, the much more interesting part of what happens when an AI gets not just its freedom, but gets its status as a race or its status as a being, and then it has to form its own worlds. So it's Ex Machina meets Synecdoche, New York, meets Battlestar Galactica, meets Walking with Dinosaurs.
Your 2 minutes starts now.
Hello, Mr. Daniels. I don't know if you remember me, it's Sean. You invited me to your wedding a long time ago, and then you never returned my calls. We haven't spoken a lot since. I've tried a lot. But I have an idea for you. Walking with Dinosaurs was a huge hit. Everybody loved it. It was from children to adults, and everyone, they all sat around and they watched Walking with Dinosaurs. It was a huge event to take this sort of science fiction, this sort of speculative part of the world, and sort of almost sort of film it like an Attenborough nature documentary. So, which also a lot of people love. So I was thinking, you remember Ex Machina? It was a very low budget film made by very sort of up and coming young British talent, Alex Garland, which is what we want to foster. This sort of young up and coming talent, and they're a bit cheaper. But it made a lot of money, Ex Machina, and it was a very low budget film. So I want to take that idea of artificial intelligence, consciousness, and all this sort of stuff, big heady topics, and I'd love to see it as like maybe a multi-part series on Netflix. You know how Love, Death and Robots just got a second season? So I'd love to see it maybe on a streaming service, maybe even HBO, maybe even BBC. And I want to see a piece where we see AIs growing and learning, and maybe we're looking forward to the future. Maybe we're looking forward 5 years, 10 years, 100 years, 1,000 years. So maybe each episode jumps forward in time, but it's narrated and functions with a narration and a documentary style as if we're watching dinosaurs in the wild, or we're watching penguins, or we're watching alligators or something in the wild. But really what we're seeing what would happen if an artificial intelligence created its own life in its own world. So I'm just going to leave you at that. I think there's a lot of scope for it to maybe sort of to go anywhere, really, and a lot of hot young British talent will be interested, and they're all cheap, aren't they? Hot young British talent before they go to. We've got to catch them before they go to America, because then they start making the big bucks like Idris, and they come back and want their big money. Anyway, I'll just leave it there, Mr. Daniels. Send my wishes to your wife. I really wish you'd return my calls. Bye. So that was Moore's Law, a very unique episode we did, which Lawrence Ampofa was a huge part of. So, Tom, take it away. Please ask us any questions. Maybe if there's any details we haven't filled in for you, if there are any missing holes, give us an opportunity. You want to know more about?
Okay. So I wrote some notes.
So, Mr. Daniels, your secretary told us to all come in. Is it all right if you take a seat? I've just grabbed myself a coffee, if that's all right.
Yeah, Dan's back's really bad, so do you mind if he sits in your seat? It's got good lumbar support.
It looks ergonomically sound.
Cool. Okay, so let's talk it through. So, CRISS-CROSS. Actually, I was really intrigued by this idea initially, in terms of it being the creator of Jesus's cross and there being some kind of backstory and stuff like that. I mean, the idea sounds really, really cool. But then I'm thinking, for a film that's going to be an hour and a half in length. So I guess my question, Dan, is what's the intro, middle, and the end going to be? Because I don't see how.
That's a really good question. I've actually got one of the writers with me here, Rai. Do you remember what we were talking about when we were?
Yeah, I'll take this one.
Sure.
It would be a sort of office because Saito Watiki is very sort of known for What We Do in the Shadows and that documentary style show, and it would be a similar thing to that. So it would be the beginning is a man who is making crucifixes, but no one really wants his business. He hasn't got the government contract, or the Roman Legion contract, shall we say, to make the crosses. And then he gets given this contract. So that's this is him going, this is going to be my life's work. So the intro is him down in his luck making crosses, and then when he gets the contract,
just like Jesus,
just a simple carpenter.
Yeah,
just like Jesus.
But he hasn't got
You're going to see those
Baby
parallels
Daddy.
there. You're going to see those parallels, and also maybe sort of a small intro into the Roman government and the system there as well.
And we can
and the middle
which can have parallels
to the modern government,
parallels to today.
Yeah.
And the middle is him then. Okay, well, doing all the sketches and planning out. Well, okay, well, if this is the one for Jesus, I need to go speak to them. I need to find out what they're like. And this is where we get that first interaction to see a different person of Jesus. Then and
we get to that kind of fashion designer kind of feel. Do you know what I mean? It really,
measuring
what kind of trim will get on that cross. Yeah,
measuring them up.
Yeah. And Pontius Pilate has to be there. He has to okay it because Jesus is a bit of a celebrity. So he'll okay it under certain circumstances, Pontius. But maybe he has to be there, Pontius Pilate, to oversee it.
And he's sort of, and then it's going through all of the different, different crosses. Okay, can I use this wood? Should it be bejeweled? Should it be it should be made out of gold, all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then he comes to a realization that I'm a carpenter. By talking to his family, he's like, Jesus's dad was a carpenter, right? So then that's why he goes simple, simple and elegant with the cross. And then the last half of it is him watching almost like a red carpet, like Jesus taking the cross, and someone asks, they would ask, oh, who are you wearing at red carpet? They ask, oh, who made your cross? And his name gets dropped at that point by Jesus, and then like this is, and so as like the cross, as Jesus gets mounted to the cross and it's get put up, this guy's like crying, and he thinks everybody is crying because they think how beautiful the cross is, not the travesty that's happening in front of them. And for him, it's like this moment of beauty, like complete innocence and beauty and fame of that he is, his magnum opus has been
And of course,
realised.
the shot of that is from he's standing behind the cross, so we don't actually see Jesus in pain or anything like that. And we see the cross come up almost eclipse-wise across the sun, falling on his face, and just for that, and it will be mostly on his face.
So it's quite affordable to shoot sort of on the shoulder documentary style, like The Thick of It or In the Loop or Death of Stalin. Those sorts of good British sort of directors, they like to sort of do things a bit more organically. So less setups means less work. You get through more pages in the day. So it's fairly affordable. Yes, we are going to pluck lots of different actors out to play Jesus.
But that's actually cheaper because I think rather than taking lots of names, or we could have small cameos, so we're paying them less.
They only shoot for a day, don't they? So
only shoot
it's
for a
like
day.
Think
You get
about
Jesus in a
the way
different
that Brad Pitt in Deadpool 2 said he'd do it for Starbucks. You know, or
and also if they're religious and they can understand what we're trying to do at the film, to sort of humanize Jesus, but then also bring focus to the Christian faith by learning about Jesus's way, what cross would befit the faith, then they would all do it for a reduced price because there's no way that they could,
Tom Cruise probably out.
Yeah. He's out. He believes
Probably
in
we don't
the
want him
space
either,
god
so.
thing, doesn't he? The weird lizard in the volcano, which is fine.
So would you as well have a concern just because of the nature of the topic? Because I think there's been films in the past, might have been called Jesus Christ Superstar
Passion of the Christ.
or some Passion of the Christ, yeah, which I think
Passion of the Christ.
When-
Jesus Christ Superstar was a very, very effective and successful musical.
I was going to say, I thought it was really
musical
cool.
film and arena
That's
tour.
what I
So
meant.
actually, that's quite good. That's quite a good sort of analogy
So
there.
I won't lie to you, Mr. Daniels. I won't lie to you, Tom, if I may. Sometimes these things could be boycotted, right? And there's you lose a huge religious crowd. However you sell it right, Passion of the Christ earn a lot of money. Some of these movies.
Also, a good boycott is good PR. No such thing as bad PR.
And I know, like my grandmother, God rest her, in this scenario, she's dead. She's but not in real life. She's alive at the time of recording. So her church group will go to see religious films. They'll go and see them in a bus. They'll take them and they'll go and see religious films together. So we have that in, don't we? We have that. I think as long as we have the actors explain and show that they're doing it for their love of their faith and how important their faith is to their lives, then it's a worry, sure, but then you can flip straight over into earning the big bucks, earning that big
We'll
JC
get it
money.
right. We'll get it right,
I like the ideas. I just really struggle to see how it would fill an hour and a half, say, of.
Well,
of
I guess
stuff.
if you think
I don't-
about it, like it's just your typical sort of rags to riches sort of young creative type. He's nobody appreciates his work. He gets a big contract or he gets a big job. Let's say, like the painter who painted Churchill. In that movie. So it's like one of these things where he's got a real good chance to do well, and then the third act is
Doing some serious push. We've got the King's Speech is just about someone teaching a king to speech over like an hour and a half. Those kind of things. It's just a focus on the people
it's
more
your
than
Devil
it is
Wears
on the...
Prada arc, isn't it?
Devil Wears Prada.
Comes in
Meets
as an
Life of
intern.
Brian. Yeah.
Comes in as an intern. Gets
Leaves
all
as a-
sexified, does really well, is humbled at the end.
Yeah. Devil
So-
Wears Prada with Jesus.
What kind of music would you apply to this kind of film?
God, that's a good question.
No. So I think it's epic strings in this one. I think it has to have the pomposity and sort of the genuine nature of something that would be about a big event.
Yeah.
Maybe we could go a little bit Bridgerton and have themes of like modern sort of funkier, relevant fashionista music, but only woven in between sort of Hans
like
Zimmer
an
strings,
orchestral
basically.
sort of a wonderful choir version of like I'm Coming Up, or something like that.
Yeah.
But like in the style of
I
like
already love that,
Rachmaninoff,
and I'm going to start writing it now. I love it.
But yeah, like I love like the tunes, the music of Spartacus, and those other great epics. There's I saw something else.
So it should feel like those, but the more you listen to it, the more you realise we've gone full Bridgerton.
Yeah.
And that's relevant as well now.
Everybody loves
that's all over
Bridgerton,
TikTok. Basically, I'm saying.
So I guess as well with CRISS-CROSS, you've effectively just got one main actor and then loads of people around that, but not necessarily key people other than Jesus, obviously.
And it is.
Well, we think
And
that
it's,
like
it's Taika Waititi directs, writes, and acts in it. So that's
So you're
three
saving money
people.
all the way
so
through.
he's the cross maker. Yes, so it's a triple threat of money we're saving. And so Jesus will be played like in bit parts by lots of different actors. So a little bit like the movie I'm Not There, the Bob Dylan movie that explored different parts of Bob Dylan. We'll take like Kate Blanchett might play Jesus in one scene. It might be Christian Bale, playing Jesus in another scene. So they're all playing different parts of Jesus, and also actors of colour, because actors from Jerusalem, actors from the places that Jesus would have been born in and been around. So like,
That's by the way, that's Sean. That's
trying
Sean
to remember where Jesus was born.
Yeah, not
'Cause it
remember
wasn't
his
Jerusalem, was
Sunday
it?
school.
I'm
No,
thinking
it was
Israelite,
Bethlehem.
and then I'm trying to work backwards.
Bethlehem.
So, but yeah. So also, Jesus appears different ways to different people around the world. And we get a different Jesus on the cross wherever you go. So we want to portray that in many different ways. We will have the Adonis Jesus with his six pack and his sort of big strong Roman nose. We'll have all that stuff as well, but we want to honour all the different Jesuses that will be in the minds of the people watching. The Afro-Caribbean Jesus, the
Korean Jesus,
Eastern European Jesus, all Jesuses.
Excellent. Right. So, idea 2, Standstill. So I absolutely love a good thriller. So immediately intrigued by this one. I just didn't 100% get the idea. So I think what you said was it basically seems like people are standing still. So in terms of the film, how would that work? Are they actually standing still?
Yep.
Yeah, so if I may, and I'd love for you guys to fill in immediately afterwards when I run out of ideas and things to say. But as far as I'm aware, it is... the movie starts and you start to think that it's maybe a viral infection, or maybe it's something that is keeping them there. There's some kind of plague that goes around the world, but maybe only one person from each household is affected, but it happens around the whole globe. So slowly it starts to spread. So nobody knows what this is. But then other people will start to just die. They'll maybe die of cardiac arrest. And at first people will go, well, hold on, was that person standing still? Does the standing still lead to cardiac arrest? Why are people standing stock still? They can only move their eyes. They're like statues. What's going on? And then it develops where you find out that there is a demon of some kind. I'm not saying an actual demon, but something is whispering in their ear. And that is why only they can see this thing. Go on.
Sorry, I believe this has already been done in a Doctor Who episode, hasn't it?
So I won't lie
Has
to
it?
you. It's definitely Doctor Who inspired, I would say.
I was
That
going to
means
say,
it works.
I seem to remember an episode many, many years ago where people from every household, or like you said, every household, one or two people were affected by something. And instead of standing still, they walked to the top of a very tall building and then stood still at the top of the tall building.
Oh.
And all of them kind of lined up. And this was obviously affected by some alien or something like that. So it sounds...
Well, we'll have to check with the lawyers to make sure that the idea is different enough. But that is very good news to know. I don't know if this makes it very radically different to that or not, but we really liked, when we were developing this idea, we really liked the idea that you find out that the people can move, right? But they're choosing to stand still because the person whispering, or the thing whispering in their ear, is telling them that if you move, I will kill your child, or if you move, I will kill this person. And then those people die of cardiac arrest, right? So there are consequences to moving. So weirdly, they're almost electing to stand still. which for some reason, when we were discussing it, we found almost creepier, right? It was almost more worrying. We definitely need to bring another writer on board and figure out an ending, because we haven't got that yet. But
maybe we get old Moffat in from Doctor Who.
We get Moffat from Doctor Who. It seems like a Moffat, doesn't it? A hot off the back of Dracula or whatever he just did. He'd.
So in this particular film, do you see it being in kind of one location, or do you see it? Are you looking all around the world? Is this kind of thing?
I think initially it was a worldwide thing, wasn't it? That was the worrying thing, was that it became a worldwide sort of pandemic. I hate to use that right now. But it was so all-consuming.
A friend of ours, the person who was discussing the idea, Christine Hollinshead, she said that she was inspired by Independence Day, because if you think about it, and she was right, she said it's a global sort of destruction film. It's an alien film. It's a comedy. It's a drama. It's about alien invasion, but it's also about that guy was probed. It's like a sort of hoorah, sort of jingoistic, sort of patriotic film. It's like it has so many different things in it. There's the lab bit, isn't there, when they go to the lab and there's all that lab testing.
It's a bit where he punches the alien and says, "Welcome to America."
To Earth.
Oh, welcome to Earth. Fair enough.
So it's got everything in it. So I think the originator of the idea, Christine, was keen on it. Having the worldwide thing would allow you to cover lots of different topics and have lots of different tones and lots of different, how different people react in different parts of the world.
And also there was a point where like people could be moved, but they were not allowed to move. So like you could pick somebody up and move them, like a forklift, but if they then moved, so how it would happen, their different cultures would like move everybody into like a stadium, almost like a terracotta army sort of style, and have all of the people who are stood still in one location so they could be monitored.
How would they be fed, right? So it's like there's all these ideas of like, in fact, I'm thinking now maybe it's more like the 4400 or the Leftovers. It's more of a sort of TV series, and how they deal with this sort of pandemic, as it were, as it goes through. Different.
Yeah,
it's a shame Christine isn't here, because I think when she was describing it was far more sort of visceral, and it was a little bit more.
It was very horrible.
There was chills on the day.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those, when we get the original creatives in the room, I think you'd feel it.
Yeah, if you go forward with it, yeah. We will.
So I guess with this particular idea, were there like certain main characters, or was it no real main character?
So it hadn't been defined really, Tom. So whoever you've got at the studio, whoever's on the books already, who owes you a film, who you've already paid for a 3-picture deal, like we're really open to dropping anyone in. It works in your favour.
The only main character per se was the kid who can use the machine, the Stephen Hawking's machine, for lack of a better term. I don't know what's actually
the first
called.
person that can communicate.
The first person that is able
and says, what was the word that they said, a phrase? Like he doesn't want me to move or something.
Yeah.
And like they use their eyes to type out on a computer, an accessible computer.
And it was something like, they don't want me to move. So there was, and it was like when you realise there's something else commanding these people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Can I jump onto idea 3? Is that?
Please do.
Go for it.
So, oh my goodness, robots. You mentioned for Moore's law and AI. I mean, I think AI as we get older and older is becoming more and more relevant in our day-to-day lives as well. And being a bit of a geek, these kind of things. I mean, Ex Machina, absolutely loved that film, by the way. Mm-hmm. So I'm really, really, intrigued by this idea. It's hard to have my finance head on when I
when you're confronted with so much robots and science fiction.
Let me give you one. So Moore's law refers to Moore's perception that the number of transistors on a microchip doubles every 2 years, though the cost of computers is halved. So that trend of technology and the speed and capability of what we can produce has increased over and will continue to increase over time.
So, and I'd like to quickly add as well. So, when we were talking about this idea, what we really loved is you can look at the same way you can look back in history and look at what dinosaurs were like and how they lived and how they worked in their cultures and everything like that. You can look forward and you can use certain technologies and algorithms to predict what would happen with technology in the future. So we take that data that's being gathered right now, that's out there, and we would instead of making predictive models, we would make a science fiction TV show, and we would use those to define what AI would be like if they were given free will, or if they were given their own continent, right, or something.
And it was small, like the tribalisms and microcosms that Sean mentioned is because it's to see what would happen. So each one is slightly different. Is in like an arid desert area, what happens?
Given different biospheres,
and it's
that's right.
Different biospheres, and it's to see whether AI if it was given sentience, its status in society, the ability to have a race, what would they be as tribalistic as humans, or would they all be
I think
symbiotic?
Initially, the idea was we only see one biosphere. They think they're the only one, because it was going to be a trilogy where they break out and they actually find there's other biospheres. And then inevitably the AI conspire to take over the human race. And then it turns out they've discovered that they are, in fact, an experiment, and they are micro. They are not big enough to take on the humans, because
so
they're
that's
actually,
one of them. That's one of the biospheres, is that they actually do uprise, but they're so small that they can just be eradicated.
can't
And
do
because
anything.
obviously that's
Their
because
entire
it's
army of millions.
it's the transistors on the microchips, and that's when Moore's law comes into it as well.
So there's lots of opportunities to sort of drop in at any point, like a bit like Love, Death and Robots, and have loads of different stories that are told predictively with what the data we have available at the moment.
So, where do you see this kind of film starting? And I mean, will it have main characters, or the characters robots? Or I mean, Ryan, you were talking about like computer chips, right? And it just
that's because that's what Moore's law is. But I guess it depends on how you would. Then maybe they look like humans, or they're at least programmed to look like humans, at least for TV purposes, right? In this particular biosphere that we see originally, maybe they are like sort of half and half, so they've got like, they may be like shimmery, but they've got human hands.
I guess,
or the
let me
opposite
put it
way
this
around.
way. Each biosphere has a different kind of artificial intelligence, right? So some of them in one episode look like people. Some of them in another episode look like robots. Some of them in another episode look like nothing. They're computer constructs. Maybe in another episode they've created... So like there is like computer models of like what the best... I remember this. The best way to run for a human being is. Like a computer has worked out, based on our sort of physiology and bone structure and everything, the most efficient way for a person to run. And if you Google it, it's like the most absurd, ridiculous... Physically, we would almost be not capable of it. We would look like idiots. But a computer has predicted that is the most efficient. So what if an AI or a computer built its own physical structure to be the most efficient, not what we would decide was the most efficient for it, or in our image? So Love, Death and Robots is a good touchstone. Black Mirror is another touchstone. Every biosphere, so maybe it starts with biosphere, and then the name of the biosphere is the name of the episode. Biosphere, Black Haven. And then within that is this certain experiment that's going on based on the data. So yes, I think in the first episode, I don't know if you guys agree, but just to sort of galvanize it, I just love the idea of two robots on a desert island, because it's just an image I've never seen before. That would draw you in. You would go, what is this? Is it set in the future? Is it set in the past? Why are they on this island? They don't need sustenance, or do they? What do they do? How do they live? And then that's the first episode. Two robots that look like robots, like maybe... like I Am Mother on Netflix, or something, like a proper look robot. And then maybe in the next episode you explore, what about robots that look human? A little bit like Ex Machina. And so all sorts, Tom. I know that's not a great answer, but...
No. So I don't know as much about film as you guys, but when we're talking robots, we're talking, I guess, expensive stuff in order to even get them on the screen in the first place? Or how does it work?
It's Netflix money. Netflix, they're throwing their money, their millions and millions of dollars, they're giving it to anybody.
We've only got to make the pilot, and you see on YouTube how amazing visual effects artists have come along that are doing it out of their garage, still to this day. So, I think we can, as long as we're using this as that launching point for the pilot to then make And the most recent thing that everyone loves with robots in it, Westworld. We're going better than Westworld.
I would get. I can't remember how to pronounce his name. Neil Blomkamp. The guy, the South African chap who directed District 9, Chappie, and Elysium. He's got a visual effects studio, and he does lots of sort of science fiction robot short films. Get him on board. Get his company on board. They'll do the VFX for the lot. He's a very creative. He'll probably throw his hat in the ring, direct a few episodes. He was touted to do the Halo film at one point, so I think he's the right person for the job. So the VFX get one VFX house to do it all, and then you pay them peanuts because that's how the industry works. We hate writers, pay them nothing. They write all the episodes. We hate visual effects people, pay them nothing, and we rake in the big bucks. Oh yeah.
And I guess, well, you mentioned as well, this would be like a trilogy. You could expand it, and it would just get bigger and bigger and bigger, which sounds awesome. From
We've got loads of biospheres.
Exactly.
What happens when the biospheres break out?
I see it like Asimov's Foundation is. You can have 3 big parts to this story, and it could go anywhere and do anything. Very versatile.
Okay, I feel extremely biased, to be honest.
Well, I can't tell genuinely so far where you're leading. So first of all, just to briefly summarise them, with CRISS-CROSS, I really, really like the idea. I just don't know how people would react to it, how audiences would react to it. I'm a bit unsure. I think you said in the past, previous religious films have, actually done pretty well. Even if they've caused an uproar, and as you said, Dan, I think Tom put quotation marks around religious, by the way, so he doesn't regard this one to be a religious film.
I do.
No, I don't think it would be.
But right. I actually quite like the idea because it's just something so different to anything that I've seen be done before. So I actually, I find it quite interesting. Standstill, as I say, I love a good thriller. I would have loved to have heard the original pitch and an idea
we
on
hear
this
that
one.
a lot.
So would we, to be honest.
We've had that before, haven't we?
I feel like there's a lot more to this that perhaps I'm not seeing right now in a 2-minute elevator pitch. And I would have loved to have known where it was going and in terms of an ending, and I think you said that kind of hadn't been decided yet and still needed to be drawn out. So unfortunately, I think with Standstill, that would be the first one that I'd chopped, so to speak.
Okay.
Moore's Law, I absolutely love robots and AI stuff, and I mean, it just seems so interesting, and even like what you guys were saying in terms of it's starting off small, 2 robots, tropical islands, but you get bigger and bigger and bigger. Just sounds like it has loads and loads of potential. But yeah, I mean, it's if I was a finance person, which I am, and this was the first film you were ever doing, I would just think, wow, is this going to be super expensive to do in the first place? But I think, let's just say you get Netflix approach you, chucking money at you, whatever. I just feel like Moore's Law has so much potential and is really, really exciting. So I think that would have to be
Moore's
the choice, guys,
forward.
to be honest. Yeah.
All right. Thanks for that, Tom. See, that's what I knew. I liked you. You're the money man, but you go with your heart. Yeah, that's what you need. That's what the exec producer needs to do.
He goes with his heart as to what's going to make the most money, which is fair enough.
Yeah,
that's all good. That's all good.
I love it. Well,
Thank
you very much, Tom. Before we dive into the final 3 that we will whittle down to 1, Ryan, where can people get a hold of us? What do we want them to get a hold of us for? Direct people, social media-wise.
We have managed to beat that pesky SEO from Google or Yahoo or wherever you do your Googling. What's that one? DuckDuckGo as well? That one probably works as well. Jeez. So if you just Google Slash Dupe, you'll find all of our stuff, right? We've got a Patreon, we've got a Reddit, we've got Facebook and Instagram. Those are all at Slash Dupe. And also we want you guys to get on there, share it with your friends, hit the subscribe button, smash the like button, ring the notification bell, do all that stuff. But please go on there, and if you listen to these
What if you
episodes,
smash the notification bell and you ring the subscribe button, and what if you do it in the wrong order? What happens?
If they smash the notification button,
Yeah.
Hey there, fellow kids.
keep going off and
that was
on and off.
such an old man's
I know, it is, isn't it,
phrase,
from
isn't
Sean,
it?
isn't
What
it?
happens if they do it the other way around, though? What will happen?
Hello.
Then maybe their PlayStations might not connect to the internet.
They're Sony PlayStations.
The Sony PlayStation, all their Nintendos.
Their TikToks.
Please, so
and their
if
Snapchats.
The fact that Sean's still speaking about Snapchat says something.
I
But
know. MySpace. Napster. No, go on.
please, if you think that we are pitching bad ideas and you have your own idea for any one of these titles, we want to know about it. Get on over to Facebook where you can leave a big old message. Taj is beating all of you at all of this, right? He is coming up with films up and down and left and right of the wazoo. So, he is really smashing it out. I know people that I've spoken to have said, I've got a great idea for this. Post it, man. We want to see it.
Yeah.
We'll shout you out. If it's a great idea, you
We'll steal
might
it.
even make it into the
Yeah.
final.
Oh, yeah. Exactly. It's down to you, Dan, to step back into Mr. Daniel's office and
We're back into the bank. It's a fresh week. New ideas are rolling in every time.
What day is it? I don't know. What day's good to come
Tuesday.
visit you? Tuesday. The week's begun, but you've got over the mire of Monday. You're not quite hump day for Wednesday. Well, I might say Thursday's a good day though.
Nah, Thursday's already the weekend. You're thinking about beers already.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, it's Tuesday. We're going to spin the wheel, and Dan Cruz is going to step into Tom's office.
Dan Cruz, you have episode 18, Mole. Winner of this episode was Andrew Fernandez.
Apologies to Andy in advance.
Yep.
So what Sean said about this was Moreno, this house surfing young gentleman in the south of Spain, is finding himself as he's running away from home, but finding himself while crashing on couches, in clubhouses for bikers, caravan parks and more. It's Buildings Roman, a coming-of-age story with this young Michael Pena type finding his way in a place to settle down.
Your 2 minutes starts now.
Right, so look, I'm going to be straight up with you here. I was in the meeting when this was created, but I wasn't in the meeting, if you know what I mean. But it's Mole. It's pronounced Mole, which is his nickname in Spain, and it's a really heartwarming. It's got the Little Miss Sunshine feel of that sort of indie, close personal relationship. I've got 2 of those today, but it's really just a really down to earth, lost in the wilderness young man finding his way in the world. By not finding his way in the world. In fact, he's sort of this lost soul, almost like a troubadour. In fact, we kind of feel like he had his guitar and he finds his way. The soundtrack to this is spot on. In fact, the more I think about this, having just watched Baby Driver, it feels like it's got that kind of level of choreography within the piece. So that like each house, and this was the idea, that each house has a different style, different culture, and with that comes the music in the background, and that music itself will help educate that young man as to what he is going to be. It's a road trip journey. It's a coming of age. It's a musical discovery, without being overtly musical discovery. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not, I play a new tape. That's how we communicate, and it's intrinsically Spanish. It's very much about the culture. It's very much about the food. It's very much about the heat. It's very much about the joining of family and friends. Mi bueno amigo. And I think we should be shooting it on location, nice and cheap in Spain, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And the soundtrack will get us a lot of PR, a lot of rolling money from that. I hope you enjoyed it. Enjoy Mole like he would enjoy this seat. Very comfortable, Mr. Daniels. I'll see you tomorrow.
just a light golf clap for Dan, because coming from the idea that he might not be able to pitch that well, that was, I would say, by far the best pitch we've had today. So
Thank you.
that was
Today,
very
the best pitch we've had in the last 2 minutes, for sure.
Hey, we've had 3 other pitches. One of them was yours, but no, that was very well. That's very well pitched. Ryan.
Okay, so moving on, I have spun the wheel and I have episode 16, BIGWIG. Winner of that one was Dan de Cruz. And Sean said this. We had a barbershop type drama in a wig shop in the civil rights era in America. A one-location film in which the location becomes a main protagonist, a main character of so much history that sort of presides over these human characters, and it allows for a safe space and also perhaps a secret space to explore tough issues, both past and present.
Good luck.
All right, Tom, I have a couple of copies down. I've just got a real quick one for you right here. Now, here's what I'm thinking, right? We need to cash in on the BLM movement, right? So what we need to do...
Hey, he's playing it like it is in Hollywood, man.
I want this. We've got this idea, right? BIGWIG. So, barbershops are very sacred, and hair salons are very sacred to people of color. And we want to set something in that, but in the civil rights era, there was a lot of segregation when it came to shops, buses, and hair salons. And we even know today through like TikTok videos how even in states in America, people calling 15, 16 different barbershops to actually, or salons, to see if they deal with like A4 type hair, and they won't do that. So this idea of a barbershop that's also a wig shop that actually is a safe space for people to come, to talk, to create community. It's a space where once you've gone out and done your shopping, you come back and you talk to the girls. And we had this idea of it being run during the Civil War, a civil rights era. And we would have the radio would also be like the voice of the shop, telling us what's going on in the news, playing music of the time to fit in with the atmosphere of what was happening, different people being able to like vibe with the radio. And then also and it was following this story of like a one girl who had she grew up in the shop and then she'd gone away to college and she came back. And so we set this over a period of years. And then also it's like why that shop is important to her community. And it's only once she goes away and comes back, she realizes how much a place like this means to everybody around them. Okay, I've got another coffee meeting with somebody else. I'm really sorry, I've got to go, but like have a think on it and let me know. All right, mate, I'll see you later. All right,
Nice, good job. Lots of details in there that I'd completely forgotten. So it was nice to hear them actually.
So Sean, I don't need to spin the wheel for this one. I can see that it is the
Can
last
you
one.
make the noise
there.
anyway for me though?
You have episode 15, Down the Hatch. This was a joint winner between Yaver and Dan. Ideas smashed together.
Yes. Yes, I did. I merged the ideas in a bid to make 2 great ideas fantastic. And that meant that Yaver and Dan both won that one. So for Down the Hatch, I said, tourist children are led downstairs to the basement of a curiosity shop where they are whisked away into these little worlds in bottles. And if this wasn't enough, the twist is that all of these worlds, these sort of loops, they are self-contained little universes that all get smashed together. So that was Yaver's idea. Dan's Down the Hatch was almost like a sort of Indiana Jones cross with the Goonies. It's a little bit racy. It involves America and the English. I really like the idea of going down into these sorts of puzzles and traps and then going further down the hatch into this world. The moulding of the 2 ideas, they go into the cellar of a pub, the families jointly own, find a rack of wine bottles with worlds in them, and then they get sucked in and have to do puzzles in the worlds inside them in order to learn lessons and get free.
Your 2 minutes starts
That was a
now.
mouthful. Mr. Daniels, sorry, I know we've just talked. I've two fantastic writers. I've talked to them both. Both they have half of a good idea, and together they have a whole one. You know, they didn't like it at first, but you know, if you want to get published, you want to get your first job done, you have to make concessions. So, I have an idea for you. I want to say that we haven't had a good family film since something like The Goonies. We've had lots of children's films, lots of maybe Pixar does it best, but we haven't seen it in the live action thing. I haven't seen like a Pirates of the Caribbean for kids. This franchise that really takes over. I think we've got this framework in order to do this, and I think it can become a franchise because you have all these little worlds in bottles, which means that it's magic, a bit like Harry Potter, but like where does it go? Maybe there's another place with all these bottles. We can bring this world out. And I don't know if you remember Jumanji, what a classic. Zathura, less of a classic, but still good. Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle, you know, yeah, okay, fair. I mean, it made a ton of money. And then Jumanji, the one that came after Welcome to the Jungle, that made a shit ton of money. So I say we get a bunch of American names, a bunch of British names, and I'm thinking like they did this with Snatch, for example. That did really well. We want to capture the European and the American markets. An American family moves to Britain because they've always wanted to run a pub. It's their dream. They join forces with a British couple who have to buy a pub as well. And the first day they get it with their kids in tow. They break into the old cellar, go downstairs, and there are all of these worlds in bottles, in wine bottles and beer bottles. And what happens is in a sort of magical style, they all get sucked into these worlds. Like one of them's like a pirate ship, but it's on a loop round and round. And one of the guys has been a child that's been stuck in this bottle for years. And ultimately, they have to learn why they're inside these worlds, band together, and escape. And the end, the third act, the end, is that all the bottles smash together and all the worlds come up together. You have this big fantasy sort of Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe thing. Anyway, sorry, I've taken too much of your time. You don't have to unhand me, security guard. That's my acting. Did you like that? Unhand me, sir.
Strong. Strong.
So that's down the hatch.
Cool. So the first one I wanted to ask about was Mole or Mole. Mole.
Mm-hmm. Mole, yeah.
So, what's kind of the nature of this film? Is it going to be a comedy, a thriller? What kind of? Where are we going with this?
Sean, would you like to describe the genre that you?
A Bildungsroman. Yes.
Yeah.
It's a very fancy term I found on Wikipedia about a year ago that is basically means coming of age. So generally a coming of age story, it has a little bit of everything in it because essentially growing up has a little bit of the thriller in it, a little bit of comedy, a little bit of romance. I would say generally the plot of this story is that yes, there is a young guy in Spain, but bearing in mind, you know, we shoot it on the cheap, we shoot it without permits on location, we do it very quickly, we get local people in to play the part, so you don't have to pay them anything, so it's very affordable, but ultimately he's going into all these different places to find whether he likes these people, what he connects with them over, and it's a journey film really around the south of Spain, but essentially he's not ready to grow up. And maybe it's one of these. They don't tell a lot of these stories when you're late 20s, early 30s. You know, when you're just forming yourself, you're having your early midlife crisis. Your frontal lobes are developing. You know, you're becoming an adult quite late in life, actually. And so I think really it's a love story, but he's learning to fall in love with himself, and he's learning to find. I love myself, and I am gonna be okay with settling down because ultimately most people will settle down, so you might as well make peace with it. So it's actually a love story where he falls in love with himself.
And you know, it's like seeing, like as you said, like he does it through the medium of couch surfing and getting to meet all these other people. So you know, like one of the couches, as we said, is in like a biker gang, is in like a biker gang's clubhouse. But he sort of sees they sort of almost riff off of this, you know, like from Fast and the Furious, like family is everything sort of thing, like. Everything that they do, like they seem rough on the outside, but you know, once you're through those clubhouse doors and you're chilling in the barbecue with them, everybody is helping each other out.
Corona, of course.
Drinking it'd be like Piston Head lager, wouldn't it? Or no, what's the Moderno? Is that the beer? Is that the Spanish beer.
That's the COVID jab, isn't it?
Yeah, we've gone from Corona
That's
to
Moderna.
COVID, I feel like.
Corona to go.
There's also like Madeira biscuits as well. I always get confused by that. But yeah, but like, you know, he sees that like their love is friendship and rallying around their love of motorcycles and
But
stuff
maybe
like
that's
that,
not for him,
you know?
so he'll move on and he'll find
Yeah.
a new place to live for a while and see whether that's for him.
So another thing I really liked about this particular one was you said about there being lots of different cultures and stuff like that, and obviously cultural stuff, as we know, is such a massive thing at the moment with all the anti-racism stuff currently going on in the world. What kind of cultures would you envisage the main character meeting in Spain, and how would...
Well, Dan, your last name's De Cruz. You take this away.
Yeah, that's It's Portuguese, so that's already stuffed me up there. No, I think it goes from maybe like a town boy who doesn't really know himself, moving further and further out in sort of the countryside of Spain and finding all these sort of different, like going almost more traditional Spanish, like we would as if we went out into the sticks in England. We'd get to the more countrified areas of stuff, and we'd see more natural people. And I think that's what we're heading here, and that's why I say the idea of him having a guitar or bringing his stories via music or a shared love of music throughout all of that.
Yeah.
It is, of course, a Spanish language story as well, so it would be all shot in Spain with Spanish language, but also embracing the Spanish music as well, the Spanish music styles. And I think there's great chance for like sort of vista shots that are easily shot from like an easy shot that just sweeps across the sort of the Spanish plains, but with that Spanish music that leads into our next culture.
And
so that road trip
the
idea
music can definitely sort of be cultural as well, can't it? The different varieties from county to county. I think so. Our writer is Andy Fernandez. It's written partially on some of his own experiences in Spain. So we would definitely leave a lot of the cultural touchstones and the intricacies to an authentic writer, if I would use that word. I would never actually use it in real life, but if I was in a meeting, I probably would use the word authentic. So we'll leave him to pull on all those touchstones.
Okay, cool. I think that's all my questions on that one.
Nice.
And so the next idea was BIGWIG and the barbershop. So as you were pitching this idea to me, what I was thinking of was actually Disney's Soul film, because there was a really kind of quite important scene in there, which they added in about the barbershop and this whole kind of the black community in the barbershops and how important that is to them. And I find all this stuff, as a white person that knows or is not as anywhere near as cultured as I'd like to be, I find this stuff really, really quite fascinating and interesting. So yeah, I'd just like to hear a bit more about that actually, in terms of what you were thinking on that.
Yeah, I think the idea was that it was to tell the story of sort of the civil rights movement, but without actually seeing any of the civil rights movement, only seeing the reactions of the people that come into this barbershop, or when it's invaded, when it's actually sort of, we could have a scene where it is possibly, the sanctity is broken. It's a literal one location shoot. We have the radio is kind of their lifeline, the contact to the outside world, but it also allows us to have the amazing soundtrack of the time coming through, which will bleed into and could emphasize the feelings that the characters are feeling in there. It's also going to be generational, so it's not stuck in one time period, one location, but not necessarily one time frame. So we can jump years, or we could jump a week, we could jump a month, we could jump a year when we needed to, by keeping some of the characters the same, like the matriarch of the building. We may see her all the way to time. There may be a point where she passes on, and we could see that within itself.
We also joked about the BIGWIG status, right? And we talked about the girl in Mama BIGWIG. She was the first one that opened up the store, and it was it was about the older women would joke to the younger girls like they haven't got the bigwig yet, and it wasn't
Bigwig status.
like
Bigwig
bigwig status. It was more to do with like that feeling of understanding the world and understanding people and why places like this are so. You're not being dragged here by your mother. You're being brought here to be educated, to speak to other women, to empower other women, and you haven't got your
in a time when women weren't empowered, especially women of colour.
Yeah.
And so it's got that Steel Magnolias idea, which is it's a shared space for women, and in essence, this is an all-female cast. There will be men involved, I imagine, but very rarely will they be in any of the scenes. And it's about education, it's about growth, it's about us seeing the reality rather than the history books of the civil rights movement.
Because as the civil rights movement is going on, you would have people that were already in their 80s and their thoughts about what had happened in the last 80 years of their life. And then you'd have people who are 14, 15, 16, they're coming into their adult years as well. Because if you think about it, they would have the spectrum of people and the spectrum of ages would have so many different opinions. You have the sort of Martin Luther King and the Malcolm X on two sides of the same spectrum, right? They want the same goal. They have two different causes, two different ways of rallying around the cause. So I think it would be interesting to sort of look at the spectrum of ages and opinions at that time. I don't know. Something about that interests me. I would want it to. Obviously, I'm not the person to write it or to anything like that. But I feel like it's got a lot of potential to be respectful.
Has there ever kind of been a film like this before? I'm just trying to think of films where it's maybe had one location but been, over such a vast kind of time periods that have been really successful as well. I'm just trying to think, is this kind of a brand new idea, or is this an idea that hasn't worked in the past?
Maybe, perhaps a good example would be recently Fences. So that was an adaptation of a play. Denzel directed that. Viola Davis himself were in it. That went to the Oscars, didn't it? The Academy Awards. That is very much in only a handful of locations. I think successful is an interesting metric. I think if it wouldn't be expensive to make, and I think you would garner a lot of attention if it was written sort of respectfully, and if it was cast right and handled right,
and written by and created by the people that whose life experience this would be.
Yeah, 100%.
So. I think at this point in time, it would be a cultural winner.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be expensive to make, and it would probably be one of those that in years to come, if we did it right, would be the thing that people talked about. It would make a name for the production company for sure.
Yeah, people would keep coming back to it. It would be an indie darling, one of those sorts of things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, jumping on to the last idea then and down the hatch. So I was really, really excited by this idea to begin with. But then you mentioned Jumanji, and I kept thinking more and more about Jumanji, and, they find a game in the basement, which opens up this world.
I think Goonies is probably a better idea than... Goonies and, Stardust are probably better touch points than
and maybe even
Jumanji.
A dash of Harry Potter or something, right? Because they have this ordinary British world, like a pub. And then out of this, because you have all the ordinary British privet drive and all that from Harry Potter, and out of the ordinary stuff comes this world of magic, and comes this.
And that's how they find, inevitably these families are slightly dysfunctional, and they find their way through that to sort of bonding as a family. But the biggest thing about this is that we genuinely thought it becomes a franchise, and it becomes a theme park, it becomes escape rooms, it becomes, do you know what I mean? Like a good family day out. Being a family man myself now, we're looking to things to do at summer. We could go down the hatch, and there could be different areas. So there could be a bottle that is for toddlers and parents. There could be one that is for slightly more grown-up kids and parents. There's some for teenagers, some for adults. Do you know what I mean? Like one of them is just a shot drinking pub where you have to down 20 shots before you can get out. Those kind of things. But but it becomes a hub. Effectively, you could make a theme park out of this, to be honest, and each of the themes and the zones. That was really where we ended up with this, is actually the film is in itself. We haven't had a good Goonies film in a very long time, and having watched Goonies recently, is where this came from, having watched Goonies relatively recently with my little one, realising how inappropriate it is now for the same age range. Yeah. And that we'd probably need another one now.
I don't know about you, Tom.
Good solid fun.
I don't know about you, Tom, but you know, Sean and I were taken to a lot of pubs as kids, and the cellar was always a very mystical place for me. It was always like, you know, we've got to go down into the cellar, or you're not allowed. Kids aren't allowed down in the cellar because you've got gas and beer and stuff in there. You know, even though that's where they kept the honey roasted peanuts, right? And so, you know, I thought that was another love that brought it through. The fact that these kids decide to go into the cellar of this pub to discover, and it's not just pumps and CO2. You know, it is like these mystical, you know, wine bottles.
There's something in this bottle. What is it? You know, well, be careful, don't drop it. Smash. Mist comes out. You're inside like a medieval castle, you know, and you're trapped in there with like a princess, and you're like, how are we going to get out of here? When's the prince going to rescue us? And the princess is like, I don't need rescuing. Boom. Something comes out of her boot. She busts them out. That's it. The little kid's in love because maybe that, you know, like it looks like his mum, you know, and it's a bit Oedipal for a little while. You know, that's just how things work with the young kids. And the young kid goes on like a medieval adventure, Game of Thrones for kids. And then somebody else, the teenager, is brought into another world, another bottle. And then that world is what the teenager, you know, this miserable, sullen teenager wants to be alone. Well, you're on a pirate ship. You're in the middle of nowhere. So you're alone as it is. Now what do? You know, your Discman, that ages me, your Walkman's not working, your phone doesn't work. You know, what are you going to do now? Are you going to learn something?
And the Kraken's coming for you.
Kraken's coming. So, like, and then that's a theme park, right? It's a theme park ride. So, yeah, they all have different, and the adults go somewhere as well. And we thought it would be really interesting for, like, families to go on it, like a Goonie-style adventure together. Because I don't think you see it as often. Spy Kids maybe that's quite old, but, like, the parents fight with each other, with the other sets of parents, because there's lots of like dynamics within adults that are similar to children. So you see the adults and the children going on adventures together as well, which we thought.
And then when those worlds, you know, something happens and the worlds collide, like we've got medieval swords fighting a kraken or whatever it was.
Yeah, on a ship.
Then they realise that the lessons that the kids have learned in their own worlds, and the parents are acting like kids, and these kids have stepped up because they're like, oh, it's this amazing fantasy world, like almost like when you play video games and you play Skyrim and you become the most ultimate form of yourself. And that's the way the film works. And obviously then that ties in massively to merchandising, right? You sell the sword of Gajangelmere or whatever, and then...
So where would you film this?
You just film it on stages against green screen. It's the cheapest way to do it. Build a couple of props. Yeah, go to Croatia. They've already got things standing from Game of Thrones already, still sets.
Yeah, Tunisia for the desert places.
Yeah, we'll shoot a lot of plates. Send out some teams to shoot some plates, and then we'll just green screen the actors in.
Viva La Dirt League, who are like a YouTubers. They do like a lot of medieval video game joke stuff. They just film it around like medieval ruins and like in the UK, like, and so you don't even, you know, you can even do that as well.
How big would the main cast be?
Good question. I think that's where you want to spend the money. I think you want to get in, you know, like the reason why something like the new Jumanji films did well was because of the cast. So you want to get a big, like, American star.
Two big families, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm saying maybe Kevin Hart and Tiffany Haddish.
Patrick Warburton. You want Patrick Warburton?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good choice, but I'm going Kevin Hart and Tiffany Haddish for the Americans that have come over to buy a...
Neil Patrick Harris is going to be in one of the places, for sure, because he'll
be the jester, right? He'll be the jester in the medieval one.
But the way we're going to save money...
Will be in one of the worlds, isn't it? Yeah.
Patrick Neil Harris in one of the worlds. One best bit is, of course, the kids. So it'll be like a big family of, like, think Home Alone size kids family. But they're going to be cheaper, aren't they?
Yeah, well, one of them will be an Instagram like model. One of them will be a YouTube influencer. So we'll just pluck from spheres that have huge audiences, so they can blog every day.
Some of them will be good.
Well, none of them will be good, but they'll all bring their audience to the set by doing little, bits of shooting on set, or look what I'm doing today.
On
and all this.
Snapchat.
Tom Holland will be with a teenager, won't he? He'll be the young
Tom
lad.
Holland.
Tom Holland's
Spider-Man.
Tom Holland's
40.
too expensive, man. He's way too
Tom
pricey
Holland is
now.
too expensive.
He'll
He's
do
too
it.
pricey.
After when Spider-Man dries up and Uncharted's finished, he'll want to do something. So we'll bring him back. We'll say it's going to be his franchise, right? We'll pitch it to him like it's his big franchise.
Harrison Ford will get on board, and he'll do it for just the marketing.
He'll do a
percentages,
cameo,
like he did with Star Wars, and he'll do a cameo. Be great.
Yeah, that would be good. And he'll play a sort of parody of himself somehow of Indiana Jones.
He'll be the person that sells.
He'll be the washed
pub,
up thief. He'll be the washed up thief that can't do anything anymore.
Han Solo
Used to have it.
fusion between Han Solo and Indiana Jones. Yeah.
Exactly.
And of course, the name of the pub, which I think was going to be the next sort of question. I'm predicting your questions. Name of the pub has to be very important. It's got to be called The Ship in the Bottle.
Yeah.
That's
good.
Love it.
So, Mole, I really, really like actually just the idea of, just in terms of it being a bit of a road trip. I have a friend very close to me who's obviously moved to Spain actually as well, and has kind of probably gone on a bit of a journey himself whilst he's there.
And has been a
is
previous
this Oliver
episode.
Elliott, on one of our previous episodes of Slash Dupe?
He would have been, yes.
Yeah.
Previous winner, I believe. Previous winner of his episode of Slash Dupe.
Oh, there we go. So this one kind of resonates a bit more with me, to be quite honest, on a personal level as well. And yeah, I just kind of get the vibe that you mentioned in the original pitch, that like it's got a Little Miss Sunshine feel, which I interpret to be quite like a positive feeling to this film. And it sounds like, okay, there'll be a couple of low points on the journey, but it just sounds like a kind of feel-good story, I suppose. With how the world is going at the moment, feel-good is definitely what we all need a bit of. In terms of BIGWIG, I actually really like the idea, and the whole barbershop thing, as I said before, really kind of intrigues me. I was thinking, obviously, Disney Soul, and then I was also thinking Coming to America 1 and 2, and the barbershop scenes there.
Which they're now making another one of. So even
they've made it.
Transcends...
Coming to America. Yeah, they've already done it. They've made it, mate. Yeah. So it's coming back, isn't it? This sort of thing. Yeah.
Wow. So I don't know. I kind of felt maybe a little bit on the barbershop side. I like, for me, I find it absolutely fascinating, but I feel like it's been touched on a lot recently already. And I know this story you said was more about the civil rights and that side. But yeah, I suppose I haven't felt it perhaps as much as the other two on this one. Down the hatch, I think the franchise idea sounds amazing. Just in terms of everything you can spin out from this, I think sounds really, really good. And I also like the stories that you guys were coming up with, and the whole bottle idea. And yeah, I mean, it sounds really, really intriguing, and like quite a good just money maker as well, just in general, for branching perhaps outside of films. But I think how I'm judging this is probably solely based on the films only, and not the ideas outside of the films. So yeah, I think in this case, my favourite is Mole.
Wow, look at that. He did what we call a Sean. Nice. I was sure he was going for Down the Hatch. I was sure that was the one that was going to go in. Oh, okay. Fascinating. So we've got Mole, and we've got Standstill. Wait, was it? What was the other one?
No.
Hey, first bit of editing we have to do, though. That's good.
Moore's Law.
Yes, Moore's Law.
Went through there.
Right, so we've got Mole and we've got Moore's Law as the final two that go forward for the three of us, Dan, Ryan and myself, to come into Mr. Daniels' penthouse apartment in London's glittering, towering
Mayfair.
city, Mayfair, up to the penthouse apartment for a private little. I don't know what they say. I've never been to penthouse, but what do they have? Nibbles. Someone would have had some top quality nibbles put out. The servant or whatever, the housekeeper, and we will have a overlooking the wonderful city of London. We will chat about the ideas. We will whittle them down to one idea between Mollet and Moore's Law. It's very exciting. So, how do you want to do this?
Should we go over the 2 ideas again?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was our 2 most recent episodes, actually, 17 and 18, that have come through. So obviously we got Moore's Law. That was a Exquisite Corpse winner with everybody, and then Mollet, which was pitched by Andrew Fernandez. One being a AI-based Lord of the Flies versus a Buildings Roman coming-of-age story of a young Spanish man. So which one would you like us to explore first?
Should we go back over Moore's Law again? Just to...
Well,
Should
we've
we
got a lovely
explore that?
apartment here, Mr. Daniels. Absolutely fantastic. I mean, I've seen better, but it is lovely being here in your wonderful apartment. I wouldn't
I
mind.
think I accidentally ate some of the potpourri, actually. I thought it was vegetable crisps. And...
It's
So
all right.
sorry.
It's all right. Your farts will smell great. It's fine.
I'll have a little top up of champagne if the boy is still around. Boy.
Not allowed to call.
The help.
But
Yes. So we've got Moore's Law for you. Well, go on, Tom.
so I guess what I would like to know from each of you is, what do you really love about each of those ideas? Like, what really shines out to you guys?
Yeah, that's a great question. Let's go in the order that we pitched them in, I think. How does that work?
Yeah, I love how they do that. I love how he does that. Just so I have to go first. Then they'll steal the best bits that I say and rip off the.
That's my way.
I'll go first if you want, Dan. I'll take up that mantle.
Right. I mean, you can go for it. Go for it. You're in the top left-hand corner for me. So.
Sure. So the things I love about Mollet is it's going to be bright. It's going to have this real heartfelt journey that you get taken on. Think of the amazing lessons that Benjamin Button learns in that film when he meets the people. It's about the journey and smelling the roses rather than the destination, and the sort of self-satisfaction that someone would get out of watching Walter Mitty and wanting to experience these life events that they may not have the chance to. Coming to that realization in Mollet is what I like about it. Something that might spur you on to go traveling or visit a destination, or, go and have coffee with that person that you haven't spoken to at work yet, because they might have a multitude of stories that you have no idea about, rather than just the loud guy that talks at the pub. That's me normally, by the way. And so that's what I really like about it. And then what I like about Moore's...
Should we stay on Mollet and we'll do Mollet first, and then that way we're all on track, right? I don't mind going next, Dan, to give you a bit more thinking time.
Oh, go on
then. It's been a while, or maybe it's been forever, since I've seen a film about someone falling in love with themselves. And there's that old adage where if you want someone to love you, you first have to love yourself. So I feel like you very much, for the entire movie, you think that it's about he's trying to find love, find a house, find a reason to settle down, find somewhere to stay. But actually he just needs to find that sort of inner peace. He needs to just find himself almost present, if you like, to sort of bring about a kind of a mindful phrase. Like, he's just sort of got to be happy wherever he is. And that starts with liking yourself. So I don't know if I've ever seen a romantic comedy about a person trying to fall in love with themselves. Not in that way. But yeah, and I think the rest is somebody else. Andy Fernandez will he'll give us all of the important stuff. but the and the locations and the details and the wonderful people that come in and weave in and out of this person's life. But for me, I haven't seen a romantic comedy where someone learns to love themselves. Or maybe that's
for me. It's gonna be the soundtrack. For me, it's gonna be that authentic sort of. I love the idea. I don't know if it was Andy's idea, but I'm bolting it on now that he's traveling with his guitar, and so there's this shared learning. It's genuine old school troubadour. I'm going to learn your story. I'm going to put it into music. I'm going to take on your musical styles, and maybe that's how he loves himself by the end. He writes his own song about his journey that it actually includes all of those styles together. Which we end up releasing as a single, it's number one anyway. But it's that sort of blend, and we don't hear it as much anymore. And people are, the big rise of sort of folk rock and folk and sort of country, and by that I mean sort of ambient and naturalistic music of each country blending in. We get that Spanish vibe. Everyone's going to be missing the sun, so we've got all of that coming all together, and it feels like a Thelma and Louise kind of road trip as well. Do you know what I mean? Like there's is it heading towards a tragic ending? Is it heading towards a glorious ending? And maybe that's something we do or don't find out at the end. In his journey to love himself, we never really. I kind of like the idea that we never truly find out. He walks off genuinely into the sunset, and we hope that his song tells him what we've been doing.
One of the things Sean and I loved in Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou was, I can't remember the name of the Portuguese guitarist, but
Sue Jorge is how it's spelt. I'm not sure if that's how it's pronounced.
Well, Dan's Portuguese with the Cruz name, he should know. No, I'm kidding. But so I love the idea of, but they're turning songs and doing them in his own sort of style. So, for example, from a great poet of our time, Lizzo, true love ain't something you can buy yourself. True love finally happens when you buy yourself. So go buy yourself a bottle from another round in the highest shelf. So, you know what I'm saying? That's what he learns. And sort of doing taking maybe some popular songs and doing them in a Spanish style.
I'm sorry. Yes, whatever you just
I'm
said. It sounded brilliant.
Anything that Lizzo says, I'm on board with.
Yeah.
Would you like us to go over Moore's Law and what connects us with Moore's Law, what we love about it?
Yeah.
Same order?
Yeah, let's do same order.
Get on then.
All right. So what I love about Moore's Law is the sheer epicness of it, right? This idea of finding life, being accepted, tribalism. Personally, I hate football because I think it I like the sport, but I hate the awful tribalism that comes with it. And we've devolved ourselves into that from the day that man crawled out of being a mudkip and whatever, and we decided that we were better off, when we band together as tribes and we don't form a union and we try and take and steal and everything like that. Can we create a perfect world? Can we create is AI doomed to follow the same course of us? One of our touchstones for this was the Prey video game that came out 2018, I think it was, about, the spoiler alert if anyone hasn't played it, but the whole thing is a simulation to see whether this alien would take over humanity or whether we could live in symbiosis with it. And that would be the kind of thing if AI is getting, and even if you look in Cyberpunk, for example, which came out recently but has been around for a long time, they hide a lot of their AIs behind a wall because the malicious ones will try and take over, and they only allow the good AIs through who will help us, who will be beneficial to us. So those are the sort of touch points. I see this, people love having this fear of technology that drives our entire lives, and so turning that into something that's tangible. Could you fall in love with an AI? I know I would, because I'm so lonely, but and that's even been brought on, that's been explored in minor cases around a lot of different genres and pieces of media, but it's not been smashed into one.
Yeah, I mean, to put it basically, like, we have all this data and when we had Lawrence Ampofo on, he discussed some of the data that is already being gathered that can almost project forward what would happen with artificial intelligence, and there's loads of different spectrums of artificial intelligence. I love the idea of taking the data we have and empirically creating, almost, instead of creating models out of them, you create a show out of it. So you have everything be almost as factually correct as possible, as if you were looking backwards in time, like with Walking with Dinosaurs. So I've never seen a science fiction that takes a look at these microcosms and treats them like it's fact. Treats them like Richard David, one of the Attenboroughs, the one that wasn't in Jurassic Park, David. Yeah. Treats them as if they're being narrated and as if they are a factual document, as if maybe they're, I don't know, it's a fact. This is what's going to happen. It's what has happened. It's happening now. And you sort of see it from this almost objective position, like you see nature documentaries, like they're not allowed to interfere. So you see the mixture of the intensely harsh and the amazingly beautiful, and the bits you can connect with and the bits that are so alien to you. And I have never seen that in a science fiction ever. So that the uniqueness of that is something that grabs me, and almost like the fact that you could stand behind it and say, well, it's all based on factual evidence of what we've got so far, what the data tells us so far. That's exciting to scientists as well as the people who would like it for the creative thing.
Yeah, for me, it's watching evolution. So it's watching what these AI would... So as creatives, we could become far more interesting in how each of these AI might evolve based on the data within all these biospheres, but that how all of that alienness is still utterly relatable to facets of human nature in a day-to-day. And we could be very clever, borderline political with all of these statements based on fact and data and how that might work, and sort of slightly influential within our world. Yes, budget-wise, we don't want to talk about it, but we also could be the next Matrix, the next who the Weta
Mm-hmm.
is it? Who's that? Who made so that we could actually be pioneers of the next CGI and this evolutionary the evolutionary AI that kind of creates the new things and create an engine that can effectively be used, because they've already just done that for a game, haven't they, where you can go online and create a new face that is effectively, you can mess around with the face and makes a 3D model of your face that is free on, is it the Unreal Engine that's doing that?
Wow.
And that's, we could potentially create something like that in terms of an evolution or how robotics could evolve that comes out of the film that we could then sell on to become sort of the next big powerhouse in CGI and AI. So I'm actually quite excited about the technology within this piece and how we can use that to make something creative and something interesting.
Awesome. So I suppose my next question, guys, would be, in terms of the ideas that have been put forward so far by the previous adjudicators and the winners from that, what was the nature of those ideas like? And the only reason I ask is because in the world of finance, we talk about spreading the risk. And so what I would love is for you guys, when you come to make your final decision, to have a mixture of things to choose from. So for example, if you've got two other final ideas that are about someone developing in Spain or something, or going on a journey in Spain already, then to me it would be slam dunk AI. But if you've already got two others that are AI, maybe it would be slam dunk.
I think we're quite lucky in this regards. So the first winner was Becky's, wasn't it? Was This Train Terminates.
So that was an out and out sort of horror gore
slasher
with a bit of comedy in there, but primarily sort of a gore slasher sort of film. And then the second one was
it was Fence.
Whose idea for Fence won the one? It wasn't because
Dan.
What was yours, Dan? I can't.
It was
remember.
mine.
That was Dan.
Yeah, it was the first English network for crime fighting education.
Yes. Okay. So we obviously have Becky Pantling's horror one, and then we had Dan de Cruz's one. Actually, no bias at all. It won fair and square, and it was an acronym Fence. Although it wasn't an acronym. What's the one where it's like BBC?
No, it is.
No, it's an initialism is what it is. But because oh wait, no, it is an acronym because you say fence. Yeah, of course.
Yes.
My bad.
Yes,
There I was trying
so
to be
it's all
intelligent,
good.
and I was extremely stupid.
And I googled initialism, and it gave me acronym. So you were right
So
as
you're
well,
probably
Sean.
right in both
You were
cases.
right as well. Yeah.
So yes, ultimately it was. I suppose you would say it's sort of Umbrella Academy meets Harry Potter. It's sort of like a teen superhero, a gritty teen superhero thing. I'm not trying to skew you in any way, but I feel like if you were to pick, it has a kind of global.
It's a Netflix series.
yeah.
It's a global feel.
and it's
yeah.
got like
Well,
all around.
it's intrinsically English to start with.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean
for
global.
sure.
I meant sort of.
A slightly more epic nature.
Yeah,
but
has some shades of Mole.
I
in
think
it,
of it
maybe,
in the-
but
more
like-
yeah.
superhero-y.
Yeah, kind of
more
spook,
meta-human. We had like it was like meta-human origin stories all coming together to help one unique event.
If you think about heroes, but they're
What
like
heroes
12
should
years
have
old.
been.
What
Yeah.
heroes should
That's
have been.
basically
Yeah,
what it is.
basically.
Set in Britain, set in all around the UK.
So nothing like either of them, to be honest.
Which is
Nothing
great.
at
It
all like
it
that.
proves we just have really unique pitches across everything when we come to Slash Dupe, which is really nice.
So okay, so I mean it's great. You know, I've noticed there's a theme here in terms of films beginning with the letter M that are great. There's obviously Mole, More Law, and obviously Disney's Mulan, which I noticed got criticised by Slash Dupe.
Dan
recently
very
pretty
much.
heavily.
Tom's very much enjoyed my review of Mulan, the live action one that on Disney Plus that I've eviscerated, forgetting that it automatically dumps it to our Facebook page, and everybody could read it. And Tom felt very differently, didn't you, about the live action Mulan?
I did on this one. I did. But anyway, we're not here to talk about Mulan today, which is a great film. Please, everyone, watch it.
I'm not getting involved in this. We had a conversation about this last time we met up on video chat, and it was far too long then. All right.
So, I think. Do you know what? I think More Law is a
Moore's Law. Yeah.
Moore's Law, sorry, is a really, really, really good idea.
Mm-hmm.
But I am going to go with Mole.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason is I just feel something like that hasn't been done for such a long time. And it's kind of like, if it's done in the right way, it could be a real kind of feel-good, bringing everyone together kind of story. And I just really like that idea in terms of I just think that's what the world needs a little bit at the moment, to be quite honest. So, yeah, I think on another day I would have gone for Moore's Law, but today and my kind of personal feelings towards it, which I said I'd make my final decision on the personal feelings, has to be Mole. So.
Thank you, Tom. That's an excellent
Amazing.
choice. They're
Fantastic.
all excellent, obviously. We're proud of all of the ideas and all of the contributors to every individual episode, whether they won or not. They're all winners because they're all fantastic and unique ideas. But we're very happy and proud and honoured to say well done, Andrew Fernandez, for your idea for Mole, which goes into the final,
Congratulations.
along with Becky Pantling's This Train Terminates. And Dan de Cruz.
I'm looking forward to the trip to Spain. To
Oh
shoot
my
that
god!
one.
As
Great.
Tom was deliberating, I was thinking neither of these ideas are easy to turn into a trailer. So
Oh no! But I would happily have a little road trip around Spain to shoot that
Are
trailer.
you
Let's
volunteering
make it
for
happen.
yourself as Mole? Then are you? Sorry, Mileno. Mileno.
Mileno.
Yeah.
So
I have to brush up my Spanish if we're going to do that.
So the last time I was in Spain, in Barcelona, visiting my friend, I had a rubbish bin thrown at me by someone who had been busted shoplifting, and I was just
Classic.
an innocent bystander in the shop. But I mean, it would be great if that could make it in the film.
Do you know
So no
what?
different
Show
to
you
being in London.
what Spain is like.
You know what? That's one of the things that if it's in the contract, you know, we'll fulfill it.
yeah, well, don't worry, we'll
Put it
throw
in.
a bin at
We'll
you,
put it
Tom.
in.
That'll be an easy thing for us to do.
Thank you so
we
much.
we went to Sidges, didn't we, together, and met Ollie, who we've had a friend of the podcast, and Chris Beach, who also another friend of the podcast. He was on. His idea did very well. So we went to Sidges and we went to the film festival there. So there's a big film festival there, big sort of horror film festival that they have every year. I'm sure COVID is screwing it all up. But we're really keen. And Becky Pantling, who again has been on the podcast, she had a short film show at the Sidges Film Festival. So maybe there's something in Mole. There's something that's bringing us back to Spain, and we're going to be able to sort of, maybe we'll make this trailer and show it at the Sidges Film Festival. I mean, we definitely won't, but there's a certain poetry there. Definitely, I think everyone at home will agree.
I love that you said we definitely won't. It's not a positive attitude.
No one will want to see this trailer. Not even the people that voted.
We're here just to make the trailer, not the film, just the trailer. That's it.
But yeah, so that was a fantastic episode. Tom, you asked some incredibly interesting, pertinent questions. We're always honoured to have our adjudicators come on and give us their sort of creative views through the lens of what they love and what they do. So we're really honoured to have you here today, Tom. Did you have a good time? How do you feel?
Yeah,
about
guys, just wanted to say thank you so much. Really enjoyed it. So and I can't wait to see the trailer at the end of the season for whichever film is chosen.
Yeah. Well, we'll keep you posted, and we'll let Andrew know. He'll be extremely happy to know his idea won. But yeah, so thank you, Tom. Yeah, it's been wonderful to have you, and thank you, Dan, and thank you, Ryan. It's been good. It's always good to sort of come in and pitch stuff together, isn't it? And fill in ideas for each other and little gaps. And it's I love the Adjudicator episodes because we get to work together in a way that we it's a little bit more of an element of competition when we're in the standard episodes.
And that's what Slash Dupe's all about. Good night, kids.
That is a worse exit than my one where I talked about trees falling in the woods or whatever. Yeah, that was bad. But yeah, thanks everyone. Been a good episode.
Recorded in the Capo Studios 2021. What's up, danger?